You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
Well, I hope y'all are staying dry today. We definitely needed this rain, but still it came down in Crowley here. That's why we're a little bit later. Plus the fact I can't read a schedule. I told these guys the wrong time, but they came here anyway. So
no, we adapt and overcome.
Adapt and overcome the Marine, yes. You guys kill me, you Marines. You can't take the Marine out of the Marine, can you?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. It's once you were inundated into that brotherhood, you were never leaving.
Did you, you know Jack Madsen?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. He was on the show about 2 weeks ago doing Toys for Tots.
Yes.
And he brought some of his Marine Corps League people with him, and they were, hoorah, Semper Fi, baby.
100%, 100%. And we don't look too bad for 250 years old.
No, that's right. Y'all were the first, weren't you? The first division, first military army created, or was it the Army?
Well, we're the only one that counts, so it doesn't matter.
What am I saying? Of course. I got
your humility is just inspiring.
It's
when you're great, you don't need to be humble.
That's very, very true. Very, very true.
I tell myself that all the time. But anyway, but I have Cameron Pilgrim here also, and this is your particular area, social media and all that. Or what would you
social media is really Collin's area. Mm-hmm. I run the Crimes Against People unit in our criminal investigations at the police department.
That must be a lot of fun. I'm just sharing this, I hope people share this with others, because this is a really important topic we're going to be talking about. And Collin's already warned me there's going to be parts of it that are going to be a bit uncomfortable. You can't talk about this without it being uncomfortable, though.
Well, I would say from the beginning, though, when we start talking to probably about the time you say, we'll see you next time, it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation.
Okay. Well, here's the thing all about it is you can't have these conversations with even your own family without having to, not to use euphemisms.
Right.
You guys say, this is what you can expect. And so, like, when Mike gave my kids phones, they were in the upper part of their high school careers. I had a couple caveats. One is, if you ever hesitate to give me your phone, I want to take a look at it, I'm just going to cut the service.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and that wasn't really no problem. My son was like afraid I'd find embarrassing stuff, not embarrassing like incriminating or crap, but just, silly, goofy things to girls and whatever else. And, and I said, I'm not interested in that. If you're not doing that if you're not telling girls silly, stupid things, you ain't trying. But
that's very true.
And I told him also that, I'm not worried about what you're doing. I'm worried about you getting hit with stuff that you didn't ask for. And that did happen a couple of times to both my kids. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. I was like, what's this on my phone? It's not what I'm about. But there you go.
How old were they when they got their first time?
Hayden was a junior, I think. So was Sarah. It's around 16.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, and I'm not upset one iota that the schools now ask you to park your phones. I wish we could have done that back in the day.
Well, and Sergeant Pilgrim was SRO over at BHS for several years. So, he understands that.
Yeah, I can only imagine the nightmare that the administrators are having to deal with that.
Well, from what I've been told from my friends that are either parents of kids in schools or still my friends that are still in the system, it's really not been as bad as they thought. They thought to have an open rebellion, but really the kids, after the initial bellyache, and kind of just got used to it. And it really isn't the problem that they thought it'd be, which is a good thing. What was funny to me when people were commenting about that potential law, because this isn't a BISD rule, it's a law, right? Mm-hmm. I thought it was funny. Some of the parents go, well, how am I going to contact my kids in case I need to talk to them? And I'm like, the same way my mom did,
Right. Yeah, if it's an emergency, call the office.
Last time I checked, BISD has landlines.
Yeah.
So
it was just funny because I would, it's like you're taking the phones away and now you won't be able to talk to your kids. Well, that's your problem,
Right.
But anyway, I'm getting offline. I want to kind of go through the sponsors real quick because I want to get to the material. Of course, our place, I was there this morning with my Sunday school friends. We talked football mostly now. We tried to solve the world's problems, but we can't. So we talk football, and with all this college football, we really are all into that, all these coaching changes and all this other stuff. Its service is great. Food is great. We know our place. I bet you've been there before.
Mm-hmm. Love our place.
Yeah. And I have not been to the one here in Crowley yet because I go to the one that's closest to me. Mm-hmm. And there you are. And then I'm meeting a friend for lunch at Gina's. You know, I said, now, are you getting the, you know, just trying to make Otto happy? And
I was about to say,
I sure am. Yeah, I'm making Otto happy. He pays for this. You know, I want him to be happy. So,
you know, I text him every time we go, and every time he's always so happy to see us out there. So
yeah,
we love Genus.
Well, he has been a longtime supporter of this program, and I want to reciprocate definitely. And it's not like I'm forcing myself to go. I'm going to try that Chicago hot dog that they've been advertising.
Oh yeah,
being from Chicago, it doesn't surprise me that's on the menu. So no, I mean, you know, Otto is really big into that whole thing, Chicago culture. But anyway, Genus Pizza is great, and it's a great place to do business. Like that's what I'm doing. I'm having a 1-to-1 with my BNI friend, and that's what I say. What not? Let's have a pizza and a beer or whatever. Also, Old Pro Roofing. This is a good day to advertise for roofing, isn't it?
No lie.
You know, but I don't worry because John Williams has inspected my roof, and he said I'm good to go. 817-734-2756. Here's the problem a lot of people do about putting off inspections. They don't realize that if any way possible, the insurance companies can say it's old damage, they won't pay. And so you need to inspect it routinely. So if there's been any damage since your last inspection, you can get it taken care of more easily. But if you wait around, and I'm going to wait for a big hailstorm or whatever, and it doesn't come, and it, you know, roofs age and whatever else, and you start having roofing problems without a crisis event, you're going to have a real problem. And probably now roofing is the biggest investment in your home one makes these days.
No, absolutely.
I mean, it ain't cheap. Now it's cheap when and I don't say that, you know, to have you avoid what it's going, you know, what you need to do with this roof. But John will tell you the truth. He said, no, your roof's fine, or you need some minor repairs, or you need a new roof. And you just need to know that before you just assume that, because you know what happens when you assume. I bet they told you that in the Marines.
You know, yes,
in a very graphic way. No doubt.
They did. They didn't use those words. They used other words, but not on this podcast.
Kind of. Well, on a side note, I taught with a guy at Southwest Christian who was a former Marine. And
We're not former.
I'm sorry.
Marine veteran.
No. Oh gosh, Jack. Right. I'm sorry, Jack, if you're listening. Yeah. I'm trying to learn. Either Marine veterans, you're once a Marine, always a Marine. You're not
Absolutely.
A former Marine. Anyway, he was a Marine veteran, and you know, God-fearing, straight as a string like yourself. And I'm like, how did you navigate through what I've seen in the movies? Those drill instructors, they were pretty salty, weren't they?
Salty is a good word.
Yeah,
salty is a good word.
You know, I guess you just have to adapt and overcome. But you just
learned to love it.
He just started laughing because he knew what I was talking about. It's like I had another Marine veteran who's now buried over at the National Cemetery, John Mitchell. You may remember him. He was in school both when y'all were both at BHS. You would know John if you got in trouble because he ran the ISS program. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, so
Cameron, maybe. I didn't
no. He's straight as a string. Are you kidding me?
My halo kind of got crooked a little bit, but other than that.
But, you know, he said that the scene in Full Metal Jacket, the training scenes, right, were spot on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I said, wow, he really talks like that? So they cleaned it up for the movie.
Yeah. It's that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
There's many a quote I still use from that one. So.
Jelly donut in your locker. Yeah, anyway, going on. Thank you, John. 817-734-2756. Thank you also to Jeff Kelly. Jeff Kelly Realty, 817-781-0546. He was on the show about 3 weeks ago and has a lot of good advice about buying and selling. And he's also a BNI friend, and saw him yesterday. And we were talking about this new 50-year mortgage along with Candy Gal at Camco. They both said very quickly, it's a joke. Stay away. Don't do it. So there you go. That's Jeff Kelly's advice. He didn't think it was going to happen anyway, but he said that was the most craziest idea I've ever heard. You know.
Yeah. I mean, you get your grandchildren to co-sign so they can just take it over for
That's
you.
Right.
You know.
Well, I've been under Camco redid mine, has done it a couple times, and you know you're not paying down the equity until really the 10th year of that note, and it's just 50 years. You could be paying about $40 a payment on the principal and thousands on interest. It's a scam. And Jeff told me to tell you all that. Great listening audience. Also, my friend Al over at Bass Printing, Al Warner will take care of you. Get all your business done over there. 1,000 business cards, $65. That's a lot of cards, and I use them. I use them for business cards. I use them for trifolds. I use them for envelopes. I use them for other advertisement type programs for this program and whatnot. And so I know what the quality is. Give them a call at 817-616-8761. And if you want your emblem or slogan or whatever stamped on anything, living or otherwise, you can get it done.
Nice. Very, very nice.
So bring your pet and he'll have you, whatever. But he's I mean, everything. He's also BNI, and he does a lot of our stuff with banners and table hangings and stuff like that. So, again, 817-616-8761 or bassprinting.com. Anybody else? There we go, 88.3 The Journey. You probably know Rich Hooper.
Oh, yeah, Rich is great.
Yeah, he was on, well, it's getting close to a month now, and my wife listens to the station. I listen to the station when my wife's in the car. Sometimes I still get stuck with, great classic rock hits of the 70s. But
absolutely.
Rich is understanding about that. He's okay. But no, 88.3 The Journey is great because they do a lot of community stuff as well, not just the really good Christian music, but also they advertise a lot of these nonprofits and church services and things like that. It helps get the word out about what's going on in the Christian community and in the broader community. I know Next Step and others have been on their show and use their airwaves to kind of promote some of the good things they're doing. So there you are.
Yeah.
We got a couple of nonprofit things. We'll wait till the end. Let's get to the fun part.
Oh, yeah. Quotation marks around that.
So
fun.
Cameron, you're this is something you deal with. The crimes against persons, right? Online or otherwise, huh?
Yes, sir. So my unit handles basically anything from simple assault all the way up to murders when we have them, which, not going to have one anytime soon, hopefully, but that is what we do. And then a large part of it is the internet crimes against children aspect.
That really must be hard. I mean, because I always thought of those people, law enforcement for crimes against children, particularly sexually related crimes against children. How do they not go through massive therapy on a weekly basis? It would destroy me trying to go through all that material and see what people are doing. I mean, how do y'all do it?
It varies from officer to officer how they handle it. We do encourage going and seeking therapy, things of that nature.
I would think so.
When I first became a detective back in 2016, about 6 months into it, I moved over into the Crimes Against Children unit, which was myself. There was just me. And so that was pretty much all I did was physical abuse, sexual abuse, and then internet crimes against children. And you never unsee the things that you see. Even with the therapy, it stays with you. And in the most inopportune times, you can be having a conversation and one of those images will pop up in your head just out of nowhere. And you have to go put it back into your box, that you put it in, hide it in the back of your brain to get it put back away. But to this day, if you were to ask me to describe to you the very first image of child pornography that I've ever seen, and I've seen thousands at this point, I could still tell you what it looks like in graphic detail.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I know I couldn't do it. I also know I couldn't do it if I ever encountered one of the perpetrators of this and not just want to take justice into my own hands, that kind of thing. It is
a very strange feeling to have to sit across the table from somebody who is accused of doing these types of crimes and have a conversation with them to find out how they got involved with it, why they stayed involved with it, because so often people want to justify what they've done.
Right.
And then you've got to sit there and listen to them, try to make it sound like it's normal or that it's, it shouldn't be criminal. And just when you hear those things, you really do, it teaches you a lot of self-control into, what you say, how you say it, things of that nature. But I would venture to say that the majority of people in our society feel the same way that you do of, hey, I don't know that I could sit across from that and listen to it.
I know I couldn't. Some guy telling me this is normal or this is cultural or they did it back in, some other culture, thousands of years ago. I'm like, just take them out right now. But, that's not how we work.
Right.
We still try to adhere to justice and, all but that.
I think what you're bringing up is something that most of our society, and we'll just use Burleson as our example, you have an interaction with a police officer. It's normally, I got pulled over for a speeding ticket or, something minor in the whole scheme of things. Never really understanding that there are people that are sitting back there dealing with these types of scenarios and situations, that they're pouring their hearts out. They're doing everything to get justice for that child, for that family. They're seeing these graphic images. They're seeing, and not only seeing, but they're having to process as well. So it's not just hey, I took a look at this picture, and yeah, that's bad. Let's move on. They're having to go through and make sure that every single iota of those images or those videos is documented, so that when it goes in front of a jury, if for some reason that video or that image has been removed, now the jury has the ability to go through and walk through sentence by sentence by sentence, second by second, on what that officer saw. So it's not just hey, we looked at this image, hey, we just did this. It literally is, they have to consume that. And that is something that they protect our community from. There's no mom and dad that is sitting there that comes in and says, hey, I want to come in and help out the police department today. Why don't you give me some of your child pornography and I'll look through that for you. Nobody would even imagine saying something like that.
No, I don't volunteer for that at all. I'm out.
So our officers, there's people in working the social media. I was even just telling Cam on the way up here that somebody wrote something stupid in one of the comments, which is like all the time. That's no big deal. Or they'll say something like, oh, you're dumb pigs. I can't believe you do this and that. They just kind of water off the duck's back. It's no big deal. But they don't understand the depth of what these officers go through on a daily basis. It's not just writing speeding tickets and setting speed traps or anything along those lines. There is a depth that most civilians will never fully understand, that these people shield them from.
Well, I've been fortunate because I've had acquaintances and friends that have been police officers, so it wasn't like it was totally new to me, but what they go through,
right.
But and of course, when you get pulled over for a speeding ticket, the first thing in your mind is, "Thank the Lord, I have police to protect me from myself." You're thinking that's what cost
exactly
me.
What everybody thinks.
No, I'm thinking that's $180 out the window, that kind of thing. But I've never been rude to a police officer because I know these things, and that's not the way I was raised. Sanford Mason, the American Legion, thanks for having this program. With the holidays coming, families need to be vigilant on what their kids are seeing and online with. Absolutely. I remember one time, and how innocent these things can get. Coca-Cola had some sort of silly little game as a promotional game. My son was in 8th grade, maybe. It was kind of like a knockoff of Candy Crush, but it was using Coca-Cola products.
Right.
And he started getting messages from somebody, hey, we ought to get together and this kind of stuff. Yeah. And he comes in and said, Dad, what is this? And I just said, you're off that game. I said, son, that's not good in any way. It scared him because I think he saw it. And because I had told him, if you're going to do these kind of silly little games, once they start contacting you personally, there's something going on. And it's not going to be some other 13-year-old kid. It's going to be some creepy old man and all this other stuff. Yeah. And he got that message and he asked me to see it and said, this game's over. And because it scared him. Yeah. And I'm glad it did. Scared him straight, so to speak. I don't now, as far as like the games he does now, he's not really, he's 33, so he's not spending all his time on Fortnite or Call of Duty, but it's it's not the same thing.
Well, but the fact that it scared him is huge because what we see now is there's so many kids who they don't get scared by this. In fact, when we started this presentation, the very first night that we did it, at the end, we did a Q&A, and I asked one of the teenagers that was in the room, I said, are you a gamer? He said, yeah. I said, when you play, how often are you contacted by people that you have never met, you have no idea who they are? And he goes, oh, every single day, every single day, multiple times. And it's become just commonplace for these kids. They get so inundated that it's nothing to them. And so they don't understand the fear that should go with it.
Well, I didn't want to tell my son at that young age, this is what they're looking for, but I said, they're not looking to be your friend and all this. And I think that's enough but he understood that. But,
well, and that's where I think that's where we're trying to draw the line now, because I think a lot of parents will do the same thing because you're shielding your child. But now we're seeing this not on a 13, 14, 15-year-old. We're seeing this at 7, 8, 6 years old. And so we created this class to help parents talk to their kids about it. I mean, regardless of age. And I mean, nobody wants to get into a birds and bee conversation with a 6-year-old,
No.
but there are things that you're going to have to start walking into earlier in life, just due to the fact that there's so much out there trying to take these kids and harm them, that we have to be in front of it. And it's an uncomfortable conversation. And like I said before we started the podcast, this is going to be one of those things that you're going to walk away from, and you're just going to be like, this is not what I was hoping for, but I'm glad I heard it.
Well, another thing that we did to try to protect ourselves is we did not let our kids have computers in their bedrooms. It was in the den, so everybody could see what was on there. And they were on our website, so to speak, or service, so I could check the history. Now, I know they can erase the history, but there are ways you can recover it if I were really, since they could only do these things on my computer, not their own, then we didn't have these issues.
Well, it's actually a good segue into our first one. So let me kind of give a disclaimer real quick before we start. This presentation reveals the most dangerous online trends, tactics, and threats that predators use to communicate, expose, and groom the most vulnerable in our society of our children. But I will say this, one of the other disclaimers that we talk about is that this is accurate up to today.
Right.
Tomorrow, this may be a totally different presentation. Of about the 20 times that we've presented this so far in the last 2 or 3 months, we have had to change something at least once every single time we present this, because a new app has come out, or a new statistic has come out, or a new trend has come out. And so this is an ever-evolving presentation. We didn't put the whole full presentation on this because we just want to kind of highlight some of the things that some of the trends and whatnot, to give you more of a general look at it than the specific like we would do in a class, so that we can have more of a open conversation. But we'll go to that first slide. And one of the first things that we always lead in with is understanding the parents' rights. Because what you had said is, hey, they're on my computer, they're on my stuff. There's a lot of divorced parents that will hand a device to one child and they'll go to the other home. And as they are, as that parent is saying, hey, I'm about to parent you, I'm going to take that phone, we're going to put it up. Well, you can't do that. I bought this, or dad bought this for me and I'm at mom's house, and you can't because dad said I'm allowed to have it anytime I want. The law doesn't specifically do that. And actually, I'll turn it over to Sergeant Pilgrim, let him explain the law side of it a little bit better than what I can.
By the way, who do you give this presentation to?
Anyone that breathes.
Okay. Well, that's good. That covers everybody.
Pretty much. If they're not, then we're probably covering them with something else.
Well, I figured maybe church groups or civic groups, Rotary Club.
No, 100%. We've done it at churches. We've done it for the community. We've been doing it at the Brick multiple times. I'm working with BHS right now. We're trying to get into BHS for December so that we can have a big kind of before you buy that device conversation with parents. So we have done at least, I would say, 3, if not 4 a month, whether it's at a specific groups. So we were out at Field Street Baptist Church in Cleburne yesterday for a women's group and put on this presentation. So.
Well, see, you have a court case said the right to privacy is not absolute and does not extend to minors in the same way it does to our adults. I'm just thinking whoever the plaintiff in this case was, what were they thinking? But they probably got busted in something, and they.
So the background on that was actually the school board had the entire district. I say the school board. Let me rephrase. Somewhere in that district, they put out a survey. And it was for every student that was there. And it asked some questions that were somewhat probative in nature, trying to determine, were kids being groomed or were they being contacted, what was being done. And a bunch of the parents didn't like it, and they filed suit. And this is what basically came out, because the courts basically said, hey, it's because it was not specific, because there was a level of anonymity to it. It's not as invasive as what y'all are trying to say. But what they did come out of it was this right here, is your minor's right to privacy is not as in-depth as an adult's. And so basically the courts had said, yes, your children have some expectation of privacy, but a parent has the ultimate authority until that child turns 18 to make sure that their child is engaging in safe conduct. And so that's the main point that we try to push to these parents is, listen, kind of like that example that Collin gave of, hey, mom and dad are divorced. One of the parents buys a phone, the kid goes to the other parent's home, says, you can't have this because dad bought it for me. Well, the truth of it is that mom can take that phone. Mom needs to make sure that that child is able to communicate with dad when necessary. But mom has ultimate authority in that house over that child. And so she gets to control when that child has that phone. You were talking about your kids having the computer in the den, and that was the era that all of us grew up in. But now we hand our children supercomputers that are pocket sized that have the ability to make phone calls and send text messages, and then we don't properly supervise the way that we should. And that's how you see kids getting contacted by predators, because we're not as involved as we should be as a society from that standpoint.
Well, that is true, because my son graduated in 2010 and my daughter graduated in 2013, and only by her graduating class were phones pretty prevalent. With Hayden's class, I didn't see him as much. But the last 3 or 4 years of BHS, I don't know of anybody that did not have one, and of course, had to monitor all that business. But there you go. But anyway, you tell Josh how you want the slides to proceed.
Yeah, we'll go ahead to the next one. So this one right here. So between these 4 apps, we're looking at just Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Snapchat. And we checked on the numbers of this the other week, and actually the number here has changed. It's more like 9.8 billion friends, and we use friends in quotation marks. So
Very much so.
So that is a monthly user. There's not 9 billion people on the planet Earth. I think the last numbers we saw were like 8.1 billion. But between those 4 apps, you have that many accounts that are daily use. So when you hand your kid a phone and they say, hey, can I get Instagram? Can I get Facebook? Can I get WhatsApp, Snapchat? You have it without proper parental guidelines set up on that phone. You literally have given them access to over 9 billion accounts. Or a better way of putting that is 9 billion accounts now have access to your child. And if we were to go down and try to number every single one of them, I guarantee in those 9 billion, not every single one of them has the best interest of your child at heart.
There's a pretty good chance of that. Yeah.
So one of the things we talk about is, especially with Instagram, Snapchat has a really good GPS locator. So when you post something on Snapchat, it'll pull up a map and it'll give kind of a hot and warm spot of people that have posted in an area. The thought process behind it is, hey, I want to know where all my friends are going, what they're hanging out doing. You'll see, like during the Cowboys game, you'll see the area around the stadium just lit up because so many people are posting Snapchats, and you can go to that certain area and see the types of videos that they're playing, which in that thought process, it's very innocent and it's very communal. But what happens is that those predators will find kids, let's just say 13 years old, who are posting, and that gives them an understanding of where they are, what school they're at, where their house location is, where they're over at friends' homes, because those map markers normally aren't regulated. So you're going to see them. You can pull up a map right now, and anybody that doesn't have the right settings on their Snapchat, you can pull up any kid's post and watch that video, and now you know exactly where they posted from.
Good heavens.
Instagram is about to do the exact same thing. Their mapping system is about to come out, and their mapping system is going to be so accurate that you can be able to pull up a map and see which room inside the home they posted from. So at that point, again, the thought process is, I want to know where my friends are at all times. But bad people use that type of stuff to find out exactly what part of the house you're in. And if they're obsessed enough, that gives them access to know where your kid's at all times.
What goes through the thought process of the people that develop this type of programming?
Money.
It must be. But it's like, surely they can't be unaware of the negative consequences of their programming.
Brad, if I give you $1 billion, you don't care.
Hey,
that's
I may be cheap, but I do have a price. But you can pump up the paper,
look,
buddy.
I hate saying it because that is so basic. But these companies make billions of dollars off of this advertising, and at some point, there's someone up there that just says, I'm going to look the other way because I can sit there in my yacht way off the coast of wherever I am and enjoy my life. I don't worry about what happens somewhere in Burleson, Texas. If somebody abuses this, well, that's on them. That's not on me. And that's not thought. There's one that we'll cover here in a little bit that essentially it's an application that's Tinder for teenagers. And who in the Sam Heckety Doodah thought of that? It's just Evans. Yeah, but that's what's out there, and there you and I, the three men at this table, have a morality and a consciousness, but that doesn't mean that every man at every table has the same morality and consciousness.
Not, but it's like the idea of sitting around a table. So do you know this could be used for predators and for perverts and for people that are going after small children to go, but the bottom line, and our stockholders, I always hate it when they use stockholders as an excuse. It's like, we're only doing our, a duty to the stockholders.
Well, and a stockholder will say, well, if Instagram's not doing this, then they're going to be lost out, and we need to keep this. We need to be the top dog, and if we do these types of things, I mean, it's
darn capitalism.
Well, and that's why we're passionate about teaching parents, because a lot of times you hand them a phone and they go, oh, all my friends have Instagram and Snapchat, can I have it? And you're so excited because your kid now has that cool shiny device that you just gave. Of course, sweetheart, you can have this. Never once thinking I just given access to 9 billion people access to my kid.
Well, it's like that ultimate online protection that we always see. You see these websites and you go to enter it and it says, are you 18 or older?
Oh, yeah.
Yes or no, right? And, of course, everybody's super honest. They always, if they're not 18, they hit no, right?
Yeah, of course.
But that's these platforms will put out there, well, we've got protections in place. We're doing the things, we're taking steps to make sure that your child is safe or that you are safe in this. And, you've put some basic measures in place, but if we're not also thinking that there are always going to be people who try to find a workaround. Right. And so you can put protections in place, but if you're not constantly updating them, which many of these don't get updated until there's a lawsuit or something like that coming along, your predators are out there working harder to get around that than the company is to make sure that those security 100%. Measures are in place.
There was a commercial I saw this morning for Instagram Teen. Instagram is implementing if your teen shows up on Instagram and they're labeled as 13. Well, now they're only able to see PG-13 rated stuff, and that nobody's going to have access to them. And the couple that was talking about this, of course, they're using some sort of YouTuber to promote this. One of the lines the lady said was, it's so great that parents don't even have to worry about it anymore. And it was just, I'm watching this, going through, having been in this class so many times and been in Cameron's office where he's pulled up some of the stuff with internet crimes against children.
And you've seen this yourself, too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It's disgusting. Now, I will say, when you ask me if I've seen enough. But Cam does a really good job of shielding me from the worst. But the fact that he has seen the stuff, I don't think that YouTuber, if you sat there and you started pulling out case file after case file after case file and made them go through what these guys have to go through, they would sit there and say the same thing.
Well, here's the thing, though. Being the World Wide Web, Cameron, how do you only have jurisdiction in Burleson, right? So I mean, you're getting the stuff from around the world. So is it generated here in Burleson or received here in Burleson or both?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that's the sad thing, is people always think to themselves, oh, well, the production of this, that's a big city. That's a New York. That's a Los Angeles. That's a whatever international large city that you want to say is happening. But the truth of it is that it is everywhere. And we are currently running investigations that are active at this moment that involve the distribution and the production of child pornography, because these people who commit these types of crimes, they blend in. Nobody ever shows up and says, hey, everybody, I'm your local pedophile and I'm here to hang out, with your kids. They come in and they infiltrate families, they infiltrate churches, they infiltrate daycares, they infiltrate any place where children can be at, and they know how to blend in and gain your trust as an adult first, because if they don't have your trust, it's going to be hard to get access to your child.
How do you, though, focus down on something that's original here in Burleson? Because, doesn't the web give you some sort of anonymity for that kind of thing?
To a degree it does, but fortunately, when you talk about internet, things of that nature, there are ways for us to track through and to locate exactly where these things come from, the paths that they take, from the moment of creation to the moment of upload to when they start getting downloaded by others. And the one thing that, you talk about us having jurisdiction here, the beautiful thing of how law enforcement is currently set up is that while I may work for Burleson, I can go enforce the law anywhere in the state of Texas that I want to. I just have to make sure that I network with the people who are there. We're part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force that's housed out of Dallas, and it's the northernmost 116 counties of the state that are on that task force. Dallas PD will go anywhere in the state. In fact, there was a news article where they went to East Texas, I believe it was out in the Palestine area, and they arrested 2 now former law enforcement officers who were sexually abusing a child. You want to talk about damaging your public servant's reputation. Imagine when you've got people that you trust to take care of your community and you find out that they're abusing children.
So not that I'm trying to give anybody suggestions, obviously, but you can also find out not only if it's originating in Burleson, but if it's being received in Burleson, which is also a crime.
Yes.
All right, very much so. I mean, it isn't like, I got a First Amendment right. Let me tell you, as a constitutional law professor, I could tell you the court cases that said that's horse manure. There are certain cases that they said, we don't care. It's beyond the First Amendment's protection. And child pornography is one of them.
Yes.
And so there's no shield there. But so you're going through your investigation, you could find out that somebody 5 blocks from the police station is downloading this trash, and I guess you would send a couple of your colleagues out there to go discuss it with him.
And unfortunately, we have had that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
We send our guys all over. We work with that task force on a regular basis to get the help, because they have far more technology in Dallas PD than we have here in Burleson. And they get that through federal funding, things of that nature. But we can send the devices to them, and they can do some of the most fantastic electronic investigations that you've ever seen. And you wind up producing just terabytes of evidence sometimes, because that's how involved these people are.
So you send them over with a warrant and knock on the door and said, hey, we're going to take your computer and your phone, and he gives you some trash. He said, and we're going to take you downtown for giving us a hard time. But I'm sure you have to have warrants and all that, and that's fine. But I don't think people realize, they think they're behind the keyboards that they're going to be anonymous and that no one's going to know and all this other stuff. And, even if it's not obscene, it's, even you get on some of these porn sites and they swap out all these internet addresses, you're going to get inundated with spam. And this happened to me by accident, all right, because some kid... rotten kids said, hey, Mr. Allard, here, why don't you check out this site? I'm not going to name the name of the site, but it sounded like a legitimate government-related site. All right, government kind of program, historical site. I get on there and it's smut. All right, and I just slam it down, and they're all laughing the next day and said, I don't think you boys realize what you just did, because it put me on the map, and I had to change my email address. All right, and even with filters, you still get some slide through the net, right?
Yeah.
So, so even the most innocuous sounding websites could be connected to this kind of trash.
Absolutely.
This was back when the website, with the emails and all that was still kind of a novelty, I guess, is around 2009.
When you had to type in World Wide Web,
or you had to wait for the dial-up. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. Let's see what I put on here. One of the things that we talk about in the presentation are Instagrams, Finstagrams. There are ways for your kids, and the kids know this way more than the adults do, that they have multiple accounts. Instagram tends to be right now the hot one for teenagers. Most teenagers going to have an Instagram account. Instagram just means a real Instagram. There's kind of a controversy on whether a Finsta and a Rinsta is backwards and forwards, but we'll just use it as this. Rinstagram's real. It's the one that the account that your mom and dad have access to. It's the one that grandma sees. You're posting all your pictures from, you and your dog and your wonderful Christmas outfit and stuff like that. Your Finstagram is a secondary account that you can that these kids will create. And these are the ones that you're going to see a lot of photos on there that are either going to be pornographic or that's them bullying other kids. They think they're hiding the fact they're not. They're probably going to set it to private so that only their friends that know them are going to have access to it. It's probably not going to come up, as a suggested person on your account. So mom and dad just see this wonderful, beautiful Rinstagram where the kids are just posting wonderful things, but all their friends are actually seeing the one that's the fake account.
Well, it kind of goes along with what Sandy Mason's asking here. He says, my thought on electronic devices is why isn't there a way to present a birth date on a device that you hand to a minor? This could be used to all sites to recognize the user age and block user account probing minors. My only thought is these guys are pretty clever and they'll get around that kind of programming, but is that an accurate statement?
It's definitely a good idea. The biggest problem that you would have is getting these tech giants to be willing to do that, right? And then, of course, now you're trying to fight a corporation as opposed to just getting together with people who go, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do this and make sure our kids are safe. I would love to see something like that go into effect. But,
well, I it would probably be effective for the most part, but there's still going to be some that get around it because some of these hackers are pretty good at it. And that's like, because when I go back to that story I just told you about getting all that spam, we got some spam filters, but that wasn't 100%. That's when we had to change our email. I changed not only my email, but my server service entirely. I just got rid of the whole thing and got onto a different server because it was just
well, and there's some controversy on that one. Right now, Meta is trying to do something to that effect, which is making you scan your face. So that you can't multiply your accounts. The problem is there's some litigation that's coming forward saying, well, I don't want my kid's face scanned because I don't know what you're going to do with that information.
That's not a bad thought, actually.
So it's a back and forth, and there's probably going to have to be something just like Sanford Mason said, we need something like that, but then there's always going to be that other person that says, well, I don't want my kid's information stored somewhere on a server to prove who they are and their age.
The other thing that you've got to take into account, we focus on this from a, who are the bad guys that are coming for your kids, right? But one of the presentations that we did afterwards, mom and dad came up to us with their, I think he was 11 or 12-year-old child. And they said, we need you to talk to him because he's so much better at technology than we are. We put these safety measures in place. And because he's so good at it, he is able to disable what we've put in place to protect him so that he can go to the areas that he wants to do. And when you understand that our children are far more technologically advanced than we are because they've grown up with these devices in their hands, they know how to work them better than we do.
I call my daughter when I have problems.
Yeah.
How about the next one?
Yep. Let's go on. All right. Okay, so in app stores, there are suggested ages. For this one, this is what we call a Vaulty app, and a Vaulty app is it's an app that you can use to actually upload or download, however you want to put it. Could be text messages, could be pictures, could be videos. It stores it into this folder, but that folder is hidden. So when you go to the app store, it just is all they're promoting is the fact that it's just kind of an open folder for you to put your greatest memories into.
Right.
But the way it's set up, it's really made to be able to put something in there so that somebody can't get access to your phone and then find your nudes or find the adult conversations that you're having and then those text messages.
But you said, Cameron, that the police over in Dallas in particular can crack all this. If they could, it might take some doing, but they can get into these vaults. But it's going to take. I know it takes a lot of doing to do it, but.
It does. The main point that we try to drive home here, if you look at this, it's circled up there that it's rated for 4+. But when you look at the images on there, you see females in bikinis or, looks like maybe one of them might be in their underwear. And so it's like, why are they trying to advertise something for a 4-year-old that shows scantily clad women, right? And so the intent behind it is basically, kids are not doing anything differently now than when we were growing up. Kids always want to try to keep their secrets. Well, now they've got more enhanced ways of doing it than we did when we were growing up.
Yeah,
and this is one of those
absolutely.
things. So we try to drive home to the parents of, hey, if you see an app, if your kid has 2 calculator apps on their phone, start looking at one of them because, at least for me growing up, I hated math. It's still that's why I work crimes against people, because I don't want to do subtraction and addition and all of that.
Okay.
But, if you see multiple apps on your kid's phone, there's probably something going on there that you need to look into. And some of these apps are so advanced that they want to have a biometric. You have to screen your face or your thumbprint to get in. And if you try more than 10 times, it'll delete everything. Well, if you can't get in, go ahead and just try those 10 times. Delete all your kids' stuff and set them back to square zero. But there's dangers that are presented with this because it allows your child to hide things from you that may be very traumatic to the development of them emotionally, as they get older.
Yeah.
And it isn't just pornographic stuff, but just adult-oriented advertising, adult-oriented kind of marketing. And you're like 10 years old. It's way too young to be exposed to that kind of stuff. I mean, I look at
Absolutely.
some of the ads on television, and then I'm hoping that little kid isn't watching this. And it didn't, it's not like it's, disgusting porn like we're talking about here, but it's
Right.
still way inappropriate. Yeah. What do you got here? Dangers of Twitch?
So I don't know how often you game with all your buddies.
I don't game at all.
I'm sure there's a BNI out there.
BNI.
We
we all
doing Call of Duty at night or something. along those-
Fortnite. Yeah.
No, it's
we do Mario Kart.
Gotcha. There
you go. That's a good one.
That's actually a really good one. So Twitch is a website and an app that essentially, again, think of it kind of as YouTubers. They're going to sit there. They're going to play video games online, and people take time to watch them play games. And a lot of times these content creators, they're interacting with their chat group as people are going through. One of the most known Twitch users is a guy named Ninja. And when he would play Fortnite was his forte, he'd had over 1 million people watching him play this game. And so now he's making money off of this. He's doing the regular thing. And whether you think sitting, not even playing the video game, but sitting there watching somebody else play the video game is a thing or not, that's thinking from our age group. That's not thinking from their age group.
Well, I'm just thinking how much time on their hands these kids have.
Too much.
More homework.
It is what it is. What we found out, though, is because there are people out there with, let's say, an OnlyFans page. So OnlyFans, if you're not familiar with that, it's essentially the old 900 sex line,
Right.
Except for it's FaceTime instead of a phone call.
It's supposed to be amateurs, right? But they
100%. But
they
porn.
monetize it.
Yeah, it's all porn. You can go on. You can look up their OnlyFans page and just go through pictures that they've put in there. Then you can go through video backlogs. Or if you want to pay high enough, you can have a one-on-one with this person that you're absolutely obsessed with and ask them to do anything you want.
What is the matter with this world? I mean, I'm sitting there listening to this. You told me I'd be traumatized.
Yes, I did.
It only gets better from here.
Yeah, we're still in the
look at the time.
We're still in the light group. Well, what happens is that a lot of these OnlyFans realize that, hey, I have a whole group of people that I haven't even reached out to. I'm going to play Fortnite. We'll use that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Fortnite. I'm going to be a Twitch streamer. I'm going to set the angle of the camera where it's just above chest level, but I'm not going to wear anything. And then I'm going to play for the next 2 hours because their content says that I'm allowed to do that as long as I'm not showing nudity. And then as I'm doing this, I'm talking to all these people, and nothing is regulated as far as what age and stuff. Now, there's a little bit here that just may say something along the lines of, hey, Victoria's content is intended for certain audiences. It may contain sexual themes. It's not appropriate for everybody. Should you go home? Or should you start watching? Now, if I'm 12-year-old Collin, sitting in his bed at night on my phone with no supervision whatsoever, of course I'm going to my Bible app. Obviously, Brad. That's exactly
nothing like a good scripture.
12-year-old Collin would be like smashing, start watching so quickly. It wouldn't even I'd break my phone. they're going to watch these women play these games, and in the upper right corner, pinned to the top, is their OnlyFans page. And so what will happen is they'll sit there, they'll play for 2 hours on Fortnite, they'll be talking you up, and then they'll say, "Hey, man, I'm done, but we're going to carry on this conversation. If you hit the link in my description, it'll take you to my OnlyFans page, and we can hang out longer." And you have 14-year-old boys, 12-year-old boys, you have young children who are watching this stream, and now they're clicking onto the OnlyFans page. It's taking them there. They're spending money, and they're getting a show. They're getting a pornography show, and that is just, again, it's that addiction to pornography. They're introducing it, so they're finding kids streams to take them from a kid's stream over, or a stream that's intended for children, and moving them over to a pornography site. And as long as that person passes that pornography site's, hey, are you 18 or not? Click yes or no. Then you have access to it.
It's like when I go to Specs and I said, tap the little, I don't know, device that says you're born at a certain date.
Right.
Oh, I'm 14 years old. I said yes. I mean, it's just a way to govern them.
100%. 100%.
But anyway, okay, what's the next one? I'm going to get this off the screen.
Yeah, I know. We'll just run through this one real quick. This is not all encompassing, but there are just tons of apps out there. We kind of talked a little bit about some of the vaulty stuff. Pilgrim talked a little bit about some of the calculator apps. These are all apps to be able to hide stuff. You have apps that are intended for children. Something that is so cute, like this little one with a cat. Okay,
little kitty cat.
And it's called Kawaii, and so it's kind of like Roblox, but it's very little girl. So everything is just this little anime cute character and stuff like that. But there are plenty of reports from NCMEC and the FBI, which is NCMEC is the National Center for Missing and Endangered, Exploited. Thank you, children. And so where people have created accounts on there and try to seek an age group, and are trying to pull them from that. So it doesn't matter what app you have. Cameron's favorite is this little purple one on the bottom left. That's Discord. Discord.
Oh, I've heard of Discord.
Yeah. Tis the devil.
Yeah, I've heard of Discord. There was a couple of serious cases involving the use of Discord, including the attempted assassination of Mr. Trump, right?
Yes.
The assassin was on Discord, right?
Yes, Discord is a program where people can communicate, message back and forth, do whatever, and it's a secretive app. It's designed to be secretive, and people use it for that purposes. I think the last time that I checked the numbers for Burleson's cases that involved Discord associated to child pornography or online solicitation of minors, things of that nature, I want to say that Discord was associated to 26% of our cases.
Good heavens.
And so anytime that we do this, I always tell people, I'm like, if you look on your child's phone and you see that app, or if your child says, "Oh yeah, we were talking on Discord," I'd throw that phone away and just burn it and buy a new one. It's Discord is 100%. I've never really seen anything good come out. Not to say that it can't.
Well, no, I'll say that it can. That's what it's going to be used for. I mean, what are you going to do? Pretty soon, this is what happens. A lot of these apps is that they get taken over by this kind of trash, and.
Well, it goes back to the universal question. Does a gun kill somebody, or does a person kill somebody with a gun? Can you take a car and run over a bunch of people? Is it the car's fault, or is it the people's fault? These programs, when they were created, there was somebody out there that went, "Oh my gosh, I want to be able to game with all of my friends and be able to talk to somebody who's on a PC, who's on a PlayStation, and Xbox, and we can all play the same game and communicate with them. This will be great." But then another person came in and said, "Oh man, the way they have this set up, I can absolutely abuse this to find and move children and do it for my sexual desires." So it's some apps are 100% created to be stupid and creepy, but I would say for the large majority, they're just being abused, and then the app, again, we go back to what we talked about Instagram in the very beginning. They're making hand over fist money. And so when they, Roblox right now is one of the gaming apps that's pretty prevalent in the news. It's getting sued left and right. I just saw yesterday the state of Texas is suing Roblox for a lot of the association with child pornography and sextortion. So sextortion. I always get that word. Yeah, I can't say it. It's like specific. I can always say the Pacific, and I'm sorry, Johnson County. Thanks, BHS Education. Let's go on to the next one.
All right.
This is just something that we use as as one of our advertisements for the class. We used to talk about how a predator would be at a schoolyard or at a park or something, and you could always kind of look for that creepy guy that's out there. Well, this is what sexual predators look like now. I mean, they are hiding behind video game apps. They're hiding behind cutesy stuff. There's game systems out there that use AI technology to change your voice to sound like a child. So you can have a full conversation with an 8-year-old, what you think is an 8-year-old online, but they're a 58-year-old person. And you think, well, that's kind of creepy talking to an 8-year-old kid, unless you're an 8-year-old kid. And then you think you're having a full-blown conversation. And something that we'll cover here towards the end, there's a lot of child psychology that these predators know and understand. And so they're doing they talk the language, they speak the language. They have AI voice translations that modulate their voice to sound like a kid. So a kid who has no understanding of the dangers they're in thinks this is another kid that they're having a conversation with.
Night. I'm trying not to put myself in the mindset of somebody that would do these kind of things, but I know that's what you deal with. But anyway, all right.
Yeah,
all
let's
right.
go to the next one.
All right.
You know what? I'm going to let you take this one because I want to throw things every time I talk about it.
So this guy right here,
A real guy? No AI.
from Marion County, Florida, he was using Roblox to molest children and get those children to molest their siblings. And he would have them do all kinds of terrible things. It was being used to produce child sexual abuse material, or what we call CSAM for short, because law enforcement loves their acronyms.
Right.
He finally gets busted this year, April of 25. Law enforcement in Florida goes in, they catch him, they bust him, and during an interview, he admits to proactively searching for children on Roblox. And when he would get into a conversation with them, he would get them to engage in sexual activity with their siblings, create the CSAM. And basically, when they said, well, how long have you been doing this? He said that he was able to get 4 to 5 children a day, every day for the past year. And when you do the math, that breaks into about 2,600 victims total between the children that sexually abused their siblings, the siblings who were abused. That's 2,600 victims that he's gotten just in 1 year's time frame. And if he's, been doing this for a number of years, he's creating thousands, if not tens of thousands of victims. And then those victims are getting re-victimized in the sense of the material that they produced for him, he's now pushing out for monetary gain.
I'm hoping Florida has the same kind of laws that Texas has about this kind of thing.
They give us a run for our money.
Yeah. Because Texas is pretty strict on this.
Yes.
I will give him credit for that because if his was in Texas, he probably will never see the daylight again.
I would be, depending on where in Texas, you're right. I say that because just recently we had a case where a suspect who was engaged in promoting child pornography got a life sentence. He was, with all the charges that he got, I want to say it was 120 some odd years that he was sentenced to, and it was consecutively. So he'll never see the light of day again. And that's where people like this need to be.
Of course.
Right. But the sad thing is there's people who want to try to defend that, we can fix this. We can rehabilitate these people, whatever else. And, whether you can or can't, that's a conversation for another day. But the truth of the matter is people like this, when they do this to your children, it forever alters the chemical makeup of your child's brain. And so the child that you had yesterday is not the child that you get tomorrow and every day after. And they carry these mental traumatic scars for the rest of their life.
Well, my late cousin, he's been gone for a little while now. He was the psychologist at that prison in Wichita Falls. All right. And he would see up to 20 people a day. And he said 19 out of 20 had this in their background.
Yep.
Abuse of this type. They all were abused in some manner, but so many of them were abused in this manner.
Yeah.
And so he said the fact that they're in prison didn't surprise him. And as far as could you change them? You could medicate them. And that's really bad as close as it gets. Because he had guys in there who were doing 20, 30 years.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. And so.
The other thing that people don't want to talk about is victims of this type of abuse, unfortunately, will oftentimes go on to become abusers. So you're not just creating a victim, you're creating a potential future predator as well.
Right. I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, what could it possibly be going through his head? But I guess because I can comprehend it, it's a good sign for me. But
It's a great sign for you.
But I just can't comprehend it.
Yeah. No.
Anyway,
Let's move to the next
get
one.
that guy off the screen and loser.
Okay, so actually, this is pretty recent. Yesterday, I think Dan Bongino came out and they were talking about 764. There's a good Fox, a good MSNBC and CNN articles out there right now where the U.S. government is really starting to crack down on the 764 group. But these are different online groups that we had said earlier about, does this happen in Burleson? Because this sounds like a New York thing or a Los Angeles thing. And this is, we want to stress to parents, this is not, my kid was online and he went to a wrong website and that's how he got groomed. Or he was on something and he got into the dark part of the game and that's how somebody contacted him. There are groups out there and their entire existence is to find children, to sexually harm them, to use them for monetary gain, to use them for sexual gratification. And they are actively seeking kids online every single day. And that's just some of these 676, 764, Court, CASCAR, Leak Society, Harm Nation. There's tons of them. 764 actually originated here out of Texas. I think Harm Nation somewhere in Africa. I mean, these groups are everywhere. And they are looking for these kids. So they're on Roadblocks. And Roadblocks is the big one that we always talk about because it's on the national media. But for every Roadblocks, there's another game out there. There's Fortnite. There's Call of Duty. There's little games that your kids can download apps to that look so small and so innocent. And they're just, you will have somebody run up and say, hey, how old are you? Because they're exactly looking for a specific age. And when you say, I'm 9, they go, oh my gosh, I am too. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And then they try to take you over to a Discord or they try to take you over to a secondary site and they will start grooming and they will start using. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, your small child is doing things that you would never imagine a child would have to go through. And they use fear and power to manipulate them into doing those types of things.
This happened to somebody I know, and I asked how he handled it. He basically, they checked the computer, nothing was there, and so they said, "You got nothing, so drop dead." But that's because the young boy didn't do anything. They were just threatening him. He's a kid; he doesn't know what he's done. He's 7 or 8 years old. He doesn't know if what's good or naughty or whatever. And they were just scaring the crap out of him.
And that's why they target them, right?
Yeah.
Those children are not developed enough to understand, hey, if I find myself in a dangerous situation, how do I get out of it, right? Teenagers have a better chance of it. Adults have a better chance of it. But we see adults falling victim to this too. But, you look at the images on this slide, and those are Lego images. But you can see where they're blurred out because they're naked. And there's text boxes of, hey, who want a sex, want a date? The bottom picture looks like a strip club because that's what it is. Those are basically stripper poles where Lego characters are now doing this. So why would we want that? Why would you want your child exposed to that?
Well, I was just glad, and my friend was glad that his son at 7 years old realized something was wrong and he was scared and he comes in crying and all this. And the dad took care of it.
Yes.
And because there was nothing for them to blackmail the family with, fortunately. But I'm sure this happens more often than we want to think about.
Oh, 100%.
Particularly, when this kind of goes back when the phone started coming out. What would happen this is about 20 years ago when you could send pictures on the phone more clearly. Almost always, some girl at BHS got caught when she was at a party and she had too much to drink, and maybe her blouse is off or whatever, and they'd take pictures and then they'd send it through the school, and it would humiliate that girl. Of course, I've seen a couple of young ladies had to leave the high school, because of group, that the picture going viral all over the school.
And unfortunately, it still goes on today.
Yeah.
It's only gotten worse.
The first time I remember it happening was about when you were in class. So I thought, this might be a problem.
Oh, yeah. And it has grown to such a problem that, we get kids that'll come to us and they, used to, they would report it the minute that it happened. Now they don't even, hey, I tried to handle it on my own and it's only gotten worse. And then, somebody airdropped my picture to 100 people in school, and then those 100 people airdropped it to 100 more, and before you know it, these images are all over the place, and people don't know how to process it or deal with it.
Yeah. All right. I'm really enjoying this.
Social media challenges. So this is the Benadryl challenge. We've actually had some BHS students here recently that took a bunch of Benadryl because that was, the challenge was to see how high you could get off of Benadryl. Problem with taking a lot of Benadryl is that it helps you stop breathing, and stop breathing helps you, die.
Yes.
And so,
I heard they're connected, yes.
But you've seen so many stupid challenges out there. I mean, the Tide Pod thing where kids were eating Tide Pods, or, the cinnamon challenge where it's take a spoonful of cinnamon and, try to eat it. And
what happens if you do?
Well, cinnamon just pulls the moisture out of your body. And so when you put that much moisture absorbing material in your mouth becomes immediately dry, and so you try to cough it out, but in order to exhale, you have to inhale, and a lot of people were getting injured because they would inhale to cough, and they would suck in dry cinnamon into their lungs, and again, absorbs, so it has, so you get these stupid things. There was a challenge that I know your department dealt with a lot, and that was stealing of, was it Kias?
No, it was Hyundai's.
Oh, that's it.
Somebody figured out that you could use a phone charging cord. You could punch the steering column and use a USB to basically start the car, and then these kids were stealing them, and then you'd have kids as young as 12, 13 years old stealing cars and then running from the cops in them.
Well, I remember when we were kids, the kids would do stuff like hyperventilate, and try to pass out, and I'm like, I'm 13 or 14. I'm thinking, how stupid are you guys anyway? Because that didn't seem to me like a lot of fun.
But those dumb challenges that we did when we were younger, you would get that kind of ran through school because it was a word of mouth thing. Now they can go on to TikTok or any social media thing, find tens of thousands of these and run with it. But then they're also filming it. And so they're doing that to become popular, to set the trend, and that just exacerbates the situation, and more of these kids are seeing these types of things, and so they're emulating it. But when it was in the high school, that was a high school type of thing, and it may filter down to the junior high. Now you have people that are doing this in their elementary school because they have access to a phone and they're seeing the same thing, so they're doing it. So it's what we used to do, but now on a massive level. And you can't stop the kids from doing it. You just have to educate them about the severity of these types of things.
Yeah. I've noticed over my career that high school boys in particular are dumb. And we would, and I'm thinking back to my high school and junior high days, and we would do dumb, silly things, but nothing like that. I mean, we wouldn't do anything that was potentially harmful. The kind of risks we taken, would we get in trouble or not? Right. But not as far as like I'm going to do some self harm.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff we'd do.
Let's go on to the next.
I would confess what I did, to my riskiest games, but I'm sitting there with two officers of the law, and is there a statute of limitations? All right, we like to shoot fireworks off at 2 a.m.
Oh, so you were good. After 2 years, you're good. That's just a misdemeanor. So.
That was our deal. We like to go sneak around and do fireworks.
Cam, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So, sextortion, we threw this term out earlier. Sextortion is basically where a suspect finds a way to get a hold of your kid, and then they utilize the imagery or the video, whatever it is that they sent, in order to get some type of gain. It can be financial gain. It can be continued, CSAM, sexual abuse material from that child, so that they can continue to put it out. But they're basically holding some form of threat, over your child in order to get them to continue to provide either monetary or sexual abuse images to them. We talk about how it impacts people emotionally. I kind of touched on this, but this picture right here is probably the best representation that I can think of, because if you've ever been a child crimes detective and you've had to sit through the hundreds, if not thousands, of forensic interviews that I've unfortunately had to sit through, at some point you see the victim in this position with their head in their hands, and they're so upset because they don't know how they got to where they're at.
Is there any way out for somebody like that photo you just showed? I mean, do people go on after these experiences and still have a productive life? I'm not talking about the perpetrators. I'm talking about the victims.
You see some victims be able to get past this, but a lot of times you see victims struggle with this for their entire lives. And then unfortunately, you know, like we talked about earlier, it can lead them into lives of criminality themselves. And even if it doesn't turn them into a child predator, it can still push them into a life of criminality. They may turn to drug abuse or alcohol abuse. And then, of course, those can lead to possession charges or driving while intoxicated charges. And so it is a situation where too many times it ruins that victim's life. And it takes someone who could have been a very productive member of society, and it stunts their growth because it damages their brain.
Well, and if you look at it even from maybe more of a family aspect, you have a young child that grows up and now sees sex as this evil idea, and so that even in itself, trying to build a relationship with someone and then get married and have kids of your own, there is that overwhelming shadow over their life, where they're constantly still having to go through therapy to do that. And so you're even breaking down the family dynamic because someone is hurt so badly they can't have a normal, loving relationship with someone else because that's constantly just in the back of their mind, that type of abuse. So just kind of moving on because I know we're short on time.
Well, we have about 7 minutes left.
7 minutes?
All
Yeah,
right.
we can make that happen. We'll run through these real quick.
All right.
This right here is we talk about where offenders make their first contact, right? And we already talked about Instagram and Snapchat. You can see at the top that those are the highest percentages. The ones at the bottom, the whiz and the wink, these are the ones that Collin talked about earlier, where this is literally Tinder for teenagers, and it's for kids who are 13 to 17. What genius thought that it was a great idea to give 13-year-olds an anonymous hookup site where they can swipe left, swipe right? I don't know, because to me that is the dumbest thing that you could ever think of. Why would you want your child to potentially get pregnant at the age of 13?
Well, I think Collin said at the very beginning of the show, money motivates people to do some terrible things.
Absolutely.
Yes. But prior to us doing this presentation, if you would have asked me what whiz or wink were, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have been able to tell you because I'm dealing with the Instagrams and the Snapchats and things of that nature. But the reason we bring this up to parents is because we want you to see, yes, Instagram's the big thing right now, but you need to pay attention to what is the growing trend, right? Understand the danger. All I've got to do as an adult is get on Whiz or Wink and say, yeah, I'm a 15-year-old boy and I'm interested in meeting 15-year-old girls. And now I've got access to these kids who they don't know who I am. They don't know how old I am. They think that I'm a 15-year-old boy. And I can lay that groundwork if I'm a predator and start building on it and saying, well, I know my thing says I'm 15, but I'm really not. But then once you've started that conversation, they move them away from that first contact, right? So then they move them to their secondary platforms. And again, you can see what's up here. Snapchat's the biggest one, but most people don't realize that Google Chat is a huge thing. And having worked for the school district, a lot of them use Google as the platform.
They
right?
do. And we used it as a school and same with Southwest Christian, we would use Google products. And this is kind of makes my point that these products obviously had a good purpose, but somebody's going to find a way
to ruin it.
We, as far as like chatting with students and stuff like that, they have devices that they could communicate with each other, to me, through a third party. Okay. But that's how they would handle it. But I don't know if all schools do that. Now, I hope they do now. I know BISD kind of was on the forefront of that in terms of dealing with social media and, relations, between classes.
Yes.
Because when Facebook first came out, a lot of the teachers, myself included, would use Facebook as a way to communicate with students. And then they started, this kind of stuff started coming out.
Yep.
And they said, we're not going to get involved in that. So they shut that whole thing down, which I'm fine with. All right. I have no problem with. In fact, this is my little experience with it. I was on the state board for educator certification when this came up in around 2010. And as a teacher, as I said, look, this is what 99% of my colleagues are using it for, perfectly innocent purposes. But we need to get ahead of this because it's not going to be innocent forever.
Right.
And then so we banned it, and they took effect in 2011. And then on that board, we started hearing cases of teachers that still would do it.
Oh yeah,
and use it as a personal means of communicating with students. So,
well, and that's the from here.
Good.
If we can move to the next slide, once they've got the secondary thing, they abuse your kids further. But this is where we start trying to tell our parents. We tried to keep the message as simple as possible. And this is what we came up with: was be involved, be educated, and be intentional. Because if you're involved, if you're having those sit-down conversations with your child, if you're making them put their screen down and actually talk to you, and
keep calm and call the cops,
you're aware of what's going on. Yeah. When they do come to you, that's what we lead into: is, hey, once they come to you and they say, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I'm being sextorted," they're not going to use that term, but hey, somebody got me to send them images and now they're, taking money from me, or they're making me create more. Keep calm and call the police, because that's where, the average person doesn't know what to do, right? This is where you need law enforcement officers who are specialized and trained on how to deal with these, how to find these criminals.
You obviously have a lot more we can talk about. Can we do this like a part 2 episode in the near future? Because we haven't even talked about AI yet. And what AI can do. Yeah. Can we squeeze this?
Yeah, in? Yeah. I just left a comment on the page. If you're interested in actually attending this class, there is a link in the comments. Go to that Form Center page. The class is Protecting Our Kids in a Digital World. Just click on it. What it'll do is ask you just to fill out some very basic information, name, email address and stuff. And what we'll do is we'll send you a contact for our next class, which we're hoping, again, is going to be at BHS this December. If it's not, then we'll do it at the Brick, but we'll have another class before Christmas.
Well, I'd like to have you all on again in about a month, because Thanksgiving week and Christmas week and New Year's week are not that great, but maybe the first couple of weeks of December, because I want to hear more about this. I think this is incredibly important. And we haven't really gone through all the other aspects of it as much as I'd like.
We could talk about this forever.
Well,
it's sad. It is so sad.
Well, go ahead.
How much time do we have left right now? Are we?
How much time do you need?
No, not too much, but you were looking at those smaller images earlier, and I want to touch on that before we get done.
Right.
We talked to y'all about how these predators are doing things to try to get access to your children. If you look at this slide, this is a representation. Each of those little squares represents one slide from a 170 slide PowerPoint presentation that was developed by child predators to teach other predators how to hone their craft. And that particular presentation, it's not new. It's been around for over 20 plus years, but this was found by a task force member after they arrested a child predator. And this was on his devices. And this is literally a play-by-play book that teaches predators how to use child psychology to gain access to your children, how to infiltrate a single mother's life so that you can access her children, how to gain access to employment at daycares, churches, places that you would expect your child to be safe. But this is what's out there. This is the depth that they are going to, is putting together training presentations of, hey, this is how you become a much better child predator.
I can honestly say there's a special place in hell for whoever put that together.
You see a news article that will come across and say this youth pastor was arrested because of this, or this this teacher was arrested because of this. And a lot of the comments tend to, especially on the pastoral side, which I'm a little biased on, they'll say, "Oh, see, this is what Christians do. They're actually just, I
know."
What happens is stuff like this trains people to search out where people feel the most comfortable leaving your children. I had parents dropping off kids every Wednesday night for 13 years in my care to try to teach them about church and the Bible and about Jesus. And they would just literally pull up to the side of the building, drop them off, and drive off. And I had full access to their kids. There are people out there that will train and get into those situations so that they have access to those kids. They go into it with that intent. And at some point, they eventually get caught. But what damage have they done during the meantime? So it's not hey, look at all those Christians. That's what they do. They're all a bunch of Catholic priests, and they do this and they do that.
Right.
This
or like the gateway pastor, right?
Or absolutely. No, these are predators that have infiltrated into the place where you feel the most comfortable, leaving your innocence, and they are manipulating and using that to nefarious reasons.
Well, we have a couple of nonprofit things. I feel kind of it's like a difficult segue, but I do want to make sure that some of these things get promoted because one thing is Alley Cats is having you bring 3 canned foods and get a $20 game card between now and Sunday. So, I have a lot of contact with the nonprofits and they need food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
very much.
absolutely.
So particularly this time of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So
yes,
not just Harvest House, which is what this is going for, but also Promises and our friends over at Crowley House of Hope and others like it, and also Lisa Bolton House is having something with Toys for Tots. This is going to be on December 13th over at the Loft Rustic Creek Ranch. It's near Jellystone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it's a Christmas ball, and it's meant to help also with the Toys for Tots, like I mentioned, December 13th, and it starts at, I believe, 6 o'clock. Yeah, that's right, 6 to 11. So
2 of my favorite things, man, Center for ASD and a bunch of Marines.
Well, and speaking of Marines, we got Toys for Tots.
Look at that segue.
Hey,
look at that.
Right. We said the only thing I got onto Jack about, it's Elk Stadium, not Burleson ISD Stadium.
Look, I don't do their marketing, so.
Right, but anyway, it's on at the Burleson ISD Stadium. Okay, December 3rd, 6 o'clock to 9:30. I saw Jack yesterday. He says they're very encouraged so far. So go to Target or Walmart or wherever you buy your toys. I like to go buy them for a little bit older. Go to 12 years old. And, and everybody wants to buy little cute little toys for like the 4-year-olds. But, sometimes the 11-year-olds get left out. So last year I went and bought a couple Star Wars related toys. And you go drive through, the ball players will take them out of the car and they have the choirs singing. And it's a great time. Normally I let the guests finish. I just feel compelled. After even just going through this small part of it, it's sad to me. I'm trying not to let it get to me too much, but it's just very sad that this is the kind of world that our children have to live in, and that we have people that exploit it. And I want to just submit to God for both of y'all that y'all are able to do your job and not let it get to you, because I don't know how you do it. Cameron, I swear I don't know how you do it and not go home and just want to drink your problems away or whatever. Yeah, because I know that, it must be very difficult. So I put my, pray the hand of God upon both of you that y'all could do your jobs without it damaging you. Yeah, I hope that God gives you the mercy and grace to do that. Okay. We're going to do this again and very soon.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thank you, Brad. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, Josh, thank you for being so quick on the screens.
Of course.
One last shout out, Brad, before we go.
What's that?
I just don't want to pass over the fact that there's Officer Joe Byram is the one that...
that's who I thought you were bringing, actually.
Yeah, good old Joe.
He was supposed to be here.
Yeah,
you're good enough.
and I'm hoping next time we'll have all 3 of us here, but also Probation Officer Barbie Mina. She's taking care of her kiddo who's sick right now, but she does our bilingual. So not only are we presenting this in English, but we are... Some lady wrote me a comment the other day. She's like, "Why are we doing this in Spanish?" It's like, because we don't. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care. I don't care what language you speak. If we have to do this in German, I'll find somebody that speaks German and we'll do it.
My sister speaks German.
Well, then there we go. We'll recruit
She has
her.
a degree in German.
Then we will recruit her.
You think my sister is pretty salty, so she'll spell it out for you pretty good.
Well, German already sounds salty even in its love language. It's like, oh, that means I love you. Okay, great. So,
thank you guys.
Thanks,
after the show, let's try to figure a time that we can do this again.
Sounds good.
And Monday, I'm just going to have a kind of a brief show, just talk about stuff that's going on in the world. Also, it's a good time to give thanks because I know we just had a very, very heavy show, but we have some good things going on in the world, and we need to talk about that too. So,
100%.
All right.
Thanks for having us, man.
You betcha. We'll talk to y'all later, guys.